Hey guys, what's up? Take here, and welcome to another video guide. This one is gonna be for my Frostblades champion, which was my league starter for Ritual League, that I got rank 15 on the softcore Ritual ladder with, and rank 1 champion to level 100. It's definitely one of the fastest melee builds that I've played, and it's also decently tanky. It's really good for speed clearing maps to make currency, to spam rituals, or for leveling to 100. What separates this build from most other Frostblades builds is that we are using the White Wind Dagger together with Crest of Desire and Lone Messenger to really buff our Herald of Ice damage and improve clear speed. It's viable for almost all bosses in the game if you just switch some gear and some gems around. Frostblades has never been a particularly great boss killer, and this version is no different. It's probably even more speed clearing focused than most other versions. But with the insane gear that's gonna be available through harvest crafting, you're probably gonna be able to kill even the hardest bosses if you invest enough currency into it. Okay, so the basic idea for this build is to scale Herald of Ice damage using Crest of Desire, giving it +8 to levels and up to 50% increased quality, as well as up to 200% increased cold damage from White Wind, and then another 100% more damage from Lone Messenger. And then that juiced up Herald of Ice is also gonna provide a nice damage bonus to your Frostblades from all those gem levels, the quality and buff effect on Herald of Ice. And on top of that, we just have a solid sort of standard White Wind Frostblader that works pretty well on its own. And the champion just has a really good toolkit for Frostblades, so if you want a more traditional and streamlined Frostblader without the fancy Herald stuff, I'm gonna put a skill tree and some notes for that in the path of building as well. And if you want to play this build before you can afford a Crest of Desire, which currently costs about 2 exalts, that's what I would recommend using until you can buy one. Because really the only thing you need to get this build going is a decently rolled White Wind, which you can pick up for just a few chaos. You might even be able to snipe a really good one for just 1 or 2 chaos. White Wind and Tabula can pretty much carry your damage into red maps. Alright, let's look a little bit at our passive skill tree. Our ascendancies are gonna be Unstoppable Hero, which gives us attack speed, a little bit of armor and evasion, and it cannot be stunned. We also have Fortify, which just permanent Fortify, Fortitude. Conqueror and Worthy Foe, which is gonna be 100% chance to taunt and reduce damage taken if you're taunted. Also gives some damage reduction to your allies if you're playing in a group, which I did for almost all of my leveling to level 100, which, so yeah, that was pretty useful. And Worthy Foe makes it so enemies you taunt take more damage and you cannot miss against them, so you don't need any accuracy. And the rest of the skill tree is gonna look something like this. We're taking these keystones, Acrobatics and Face Acro, for just a nice layer of defense. We have, you know, of course, Fortify and a lot of Fortify effect and a decent amount of HP, but this is really nice since we're also getting some dodge from White Wind, as well as this Quartz Flask. We're also taking Winter Spirit and this node. Those two are gonna fully convert your Frostblades into cold damage, which is definitely needed. So this is gonna be one of the first nodes you're taking, definitely. Rampart and Soul of Steel provide some really nice defensive bonuses. All-Res and 20% Fortify effect here. Pretty much everything on this side of the tree is gonna be defensive, like HP or stuff like this. And we're gonna get a lot of offensive things here on this side of the tree, like these nodes are really nice. These dagger nodes, some crit nodes, and yeah, of course we have this cluster jewel, which has the damage while affected by a Herald enchantment. And we're getting Agent of Destruction and Dark Messenger. Dark Messenger gives us some area on our Herald device, which is really nice. And 10% chance to freeze from this one, as well as some damage. The chance to freeze we're getting from these two is needed in order to make our Herald device be able to chain, because it needs to shatter the enemy that it kills, so it needs to be frozen. And it cannot crit, so we're just going with freeze chance for that. And then of course the Calamitous Visions, which gives the Lone Messenger. We also have a Lethal Pride, which is gonna provide some defensive and offensive bonuses. For me it gives Fortify and chance to deal double damage. Some Life Leech, which I'm not really using, but yeah. And the critical strike chance. You can also get melee crit multiplier, which is really nice. It's not needed, but it's definitely good. We also have 2 Fight for Survival. Over here and over here. I think this is usually where you're gonna put them, if you have a Lethal Pride at least. Otherwise you can put it here as well, but you cannot put it here, because you need to have dexterity in the radius. And we're getting Life Leech from Stabbing Thirst. For just mapping, you could probably get away with just using a mana gained on hit jewel or something like that, because we do have so much unreserved mana. So you could definitely do that. But I'm using this mostly because, well, you will run out of mana on bosses, for example, probably, if you're not using any mana leech. You could also use a mana flask, I guess, but I prefer to use these flasks. Yeah, I think that's the most important things for the skill tree. Obviously this is for level 100, so I'm gonna include some trees in the path of building for lower levels as well. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the gear we're using. I'm using, of course, White Wind and Crest of Desire. I have a really nice roll on the Crest of Desire. I really lucked out on a Divine here. But the most important thing is to get +8 level of Socketed Gems. The quality is nice, you want as much as possible, of course. But focus on getting the level of gems. On White Wind, you want to focus on the added cold damage roll, attack speed roll. You want very high elemental DPS on it. And then of course a high roll on the increased cold damage while your offhand is empty as well. The evasion and dodge is really secondary. It's a nice bonus, but you shouldn't be looking for that too closely. You can get a really nice corruption on it as well, or maybe even a double corrupt, like power charge and crit, or crit multi. Or I think you can get even more added cold damage as well. For my chest, I have a Hunter Influence chest. It looks really good, but it is really good. But it's actually pretty easy to get one using Harvest. You just keep rolling it with attack modifier Chaos Harvest thing until you get, because that's gonna guarantee the attacks have a crit chance. And then you're gonna keep rolling that until you get max life on it as well. And then you can guarantee the additional curse as long as you have an open prefix and no open suffixes. So you can block a suffix and then augment with a caster modifier to guarantee to get the additional curse. And then just craft life on it. That's what I did, at least. Then once you have the additional curse, we can use 2 curse rings. If you don't have the additional curse, I would focus on getting a Frostbite on hit ring. Like this one. It can be from Delve or Redeemer influenced. This one is from Delve. And then once you have additional curse, you can go for an Assassin's Mark on hit ring as well, which really helps out our single target a lot. But Frostbite is for both clear and on bosses as well, so I would prioritize getting that. Then I have Hunter Influence Gloves. For strike skills, target one additional nearby enemy, which it works the same way as Ancestral Call. It just makes your strike skill strike one more close by target. It's not needed, but it's a really nice bonus. And I managed to get a really nice roll on this as well. Just need to get augment attack speed on it as well. Augment speed modifier. And then they're basically perfect. And then I have this belt, which gives me Aspect of the Spider. You can get Aspect of the Spider on any piece of gear. But, well, the reason we're using Aspect of the Spider is because aspects are basically the only thing we can use with Lone Messenger, because it disables or aura skills, but they don't count as aura skills. So yeah, get Aspect of the Spider anywhere. Aspect of the Spider is the best aspect in my opinion. And you can only have one aspect active at a time, so we're going with Spider, which hinders enemies, which slows them, and makes them take more damage. And then we're just looking for, well, I need actually the int on this one, but then we're also looking for elemental damage and life. That goes for rings as well, and amulet. And speaking of amulet, this is one I'm using. It's Redeemer influenced, but doesn't have any Redeemer mod. It's not a great one actually, but it just provides some nice offensive and defensive bonuses. One thing you can look out for is Cold Pen on a Redeemer neck, which is going to be really good. And I've allocated Divine Judgment, which is this one over here. You might look at Path of Building and see it's not the highest damage one, but it's actually really nice because it scales all three areas of our damage: the melee hit of Frostblades, the Icy Blades, and the Herald of Ice. If you get, for example, something like Disemboweling, that's only gonna work with the melee hit and not scale your Herald of Ice or Icy Blades at all. So something like this is really good. You can also get Holy Dominion for some resist and more chance to freeze, which is gonna help your Herald of Ice chains even more. Then I'm using these Redeemer boots for elusive on crit. This one is also really easy to roll. You can just roll it in Harvest with things that grant critical strike modifiers. It's always gonna be elusive on Redeemer boots. And you don't really need movement speed because we're using Whirling Blades to get around. Our flask, we're using Life Flask, Diamond Flask. You need to have these. At Serious Promise, yeah, pretty much needed. It's a really nice offensive bonus. Jade Flask is what I'm using with of reflexes. It gives us a lot of evasion. 21k with it, and a lot less, like 6k or something without it, 8k. So that pretty much carries our evasion rating. And then Quartz Flask for more dodge and phasing, which is really nice to get through enemies. And we're also using this Murderous Eye Jewel for onslaught on a kill, which is gonna be up for most of the time during mapping at least. Let's take a look at the gem links that we're using. Starting off with our movement skill, it's gonna be Whirling Blades linked with faster attacks. This is what we're using to get around most of the time. I also have a dash in here in order to cross certain gaps, and I have it on my alternate skill bar. We're not using this to get around. This is just quality of life for certain gaps that you can't cross without it. Then of course Herald of Ice is what we're putting in the helm. Frost Bomb and Steel Skin together with Second Wind and increased duration. Frost Bomb provides cold exposure as well as reduced life reg, which is really nice for the Maven boss fights. But the cold exposure is gonna be good on any boss fight you're doing. provides a nice defensive bonus, offensive bonus. And second wind is gonna make it so you can cast it twice, and also have increased cooldown recovery rate. Same, and also longer duration, of course. And same with Steel Skin, it's gonna get faster cooldown recovery and longer duration in this link. Then we're using Ancestral War Sheaf with elemental damage with attacks for just a little bit more damage, and Culling Strike. Yeah, we're mostly using it for the Val Ancestral, which provides a big damage bonus. And it's kind of nice during boss fights. You're not really using it much during the actual mapping. Then you're only using the Val. Cull, yeah, it's really nice to be able to cull bosses at 10%. And then we of course have Blood Rage for attack speed and Frenzy charges. Yeah, that pretty much speaks for itself, I guess. It's a lot of damage. And for our main link, we are using Frostblades, added cold damage, elemental damage with attacks, multi-strike, hypothermia, and awakened ancestral call. Or you can use a regular ancestral call as well, but the awakened one is very nice. It gives you one additional strike, and extra targets for supported skills can be found 20% further away. Is really nice too. And on bosses, we're gonna replace this with Ruthless. Ruthless only scales the melee portion of Frostblades, but that's pretty much all you're using against the boss either way. And Ancestral Call doesn't give any damage at all. The Awakened one even makes you deal less damage. So yeah, you can get Awakened cold damage and elemental damage with attacks as well, but that's gonna be a little bit more expensive. So that's if you're aiming towards the end game, that's something you can improve this character upon. Multi-strike just makes you attack really fast. Hypothermia gives a little bit of freeze chance and more damage. Yeah, pretty straightforward. And yeah, I think that's about it for the gear. Again, if you're looking for more upgrades, you can get Awakened Gems for multi-strike, elemental damage and added cold. You can get Corruptions on White Wind. You can get an Enchant on your Crest of Desire. You can get a big, large cluster jewel. For example, yeah, you would put it here. You would get Blanketed Snow and something else really good. Cutting some points here probably, depending on what you want to do with the build. If you want to be more tanky or if you want more damage. Yeah, if you have any more questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or contact me in game. I will provide some nice tools in the Path of Building, like leveling trees and trees at different stages, as well as a version without any Herald synergy, just regular Frostblades. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more guides in the future. With that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.